Welcome back to my channel. I am Julie, keeper of my home, and thank you for stopping by if you are new, and thank you for coming back if you are not so new. Today I have a lot going on. I have decided that this week for the pantry challenge, I did say on Sunday that I'm going to do both breakfasts and dinners. I'm going to put those into two different videos because otherwise it's going to be a really long one video. So I'm going to divide those up. So you're going to get all breakfasts in one, all dinners in the other. Joe and I have an appointment we need to go to this afternoon, so I'm trying to get our dinner for tonight prepped and ready so that I can just throw it in the oven and have it be ready at a decent time. Otherwise, I'm probably not going to get it done until late. So first thing, before I start that, I've already started some blueberry banana bread. So I want to finish that, get that going. That's going to take a while to bake. So I've got the oven preheating at 350, and I already have 1 cup of sugar and ½ cup shortening in my bowl. I really need to get my apron on because I'm getting this all over myself. Okay, now that that's on, I've got the shortening and the sugar. Like I said, 1 cup of sugar, and I know this looks brown. It's not brown sugar, it is cane sugar. And then a ½ cup shortening. I'm adding 2 eggs to this. If you prefer white sugar, you can definitely use just white sugar. We like the cane sugar. It's what we have on hand. It's what we use, so that's what I have in there. Okay, bananas are next. And I need to go get those out of the freezer. Completely forgot to pull those out of the freezer. So I'm gonna go get those and then I will return. I have my bananas. They were frozen, but, and they were frozen in the peels. What I did was I ran them upstairs really quick, threw them in the microwave, thawed them just enough so that I could feel that they were softened. And then I just took a paring knife and I took the peels off with that and put them in. This recipe does call for 3 bananas. That package that I took out of the freezer had 4. That isn't gonna hurt anything. All right, next thing I need, I'm gonna move you back. Next thing I need is some sour milk. So this is just a little bit of white vinegar, and I'm going to add some milk to it. I don't know if you can see what I'm doing here. Now this is some milk that was in the refrigerator. Joe used it for something. It's canned milk. I am not going to be overly particular doing this, so I am going to stick some canned milk in there along with the white vinegar, enough to make 1/2 cup. Then I am going to let that ½ cup sit here and sour a little bit while I get the other ingredients in the bowl. Okay, next ingredient I want to put in, while that is souring, I want to put in 2½ cups of flour. I have my flour down here. 1, 2, half. Then we want to add soda, baking soda. I want a teaspoon of that. 1 teaspoon. Also going to add a teaspoon of baking powder. I make this recipe all the time, but I feel like I'm always looking at it while I'm making it because I'm so afraid to mess it up. I have made this so many times over the years, but I continually look at my recipe, which is not a bad thing, right? Okay. I like to take my mixer and just kind of fold that in there, just because I don't want to get spattered with flour when I turn this on. That's the best way I feel to do it. Okay. I only mix it up until it's kind of like a crumble. That's when I add my mixture of don't know if you can see this because I can't tip it really, but it's already started to become soured and clumpy and thick. That is what you want. I have used whole milk and vinegar. That's what I usually use, but we're out of milk. And I did a lot for dairy in this pantry challenge, but I'm trying really hard not to have to buy milk if I don't have to. Okay, it's kind of a last resort thing. I'm going to use up everything else that I have before I have to buy it. Canned milk works great. You can also use sour cream, that will work well. Okay, I'm going to grab some blueberries and I'm going to fold those in there. These are some wild Maine blueberries and I'm just going to put the whole thing in. That's probably a cup and a half. But these make it taste so good. The girls love blueberry banana bread. They love it for breakfast, they love it for snack, they love it for dessert, and in this case it is going to be a dessert. So let's get this into a pan. This is greased, it's just a loaf pan, and this batter is quite thick, but it is oh so good. The last time I made it, it was last week. I think I showed it in Sunday's video. I used sour cream because I had a little bit of that left over. And this week, it's canned milk. Next time, probably be regular milk. You can take you can dust the top of this with some sugar if you'd like. Sometimes I do. I use like turbinado sugar, which is a chunkier sugar, a larger crystal sugar, and that's always nice because it comes out and it has like a crust over the top. That's always nice when you're slicing it up. The girls like to have that. Okay, this is going to go into the preheated oven. It's already gone off, so it's at temperature 350 degrees. Because I put frozen blueberries in here, it's going to take more than an hour. If you don't want the blueberries in here, you don't have to put them in. It'll be an hour. But with the blueberries, I find it's about an hour and 15 minutes. So I'm going to set a timer for that. And when it goes off, we'll check it. Now that we have cleanup out of the way, which is something that I like to do because it really helps me not to become overwhelmed. And if there's anything I need to reuse from what I'd used the first dish, then it's clean and ready to go. Okay, so this next dish is really just me trying to use what's in my refrigerator and making it up along the way. I like doing those things. Okay, so what I have is some squash. This is all peeled and ready to go. We just need to use it. We use some of it for a meal and we haven't finished it, so I've got to use that up before it spoils. I have some broccoli that I grabbed out of the crisper upstairs. I have some sweet potatoes. I have another one of these too, and if I can use all three, I'm going to, but it may be too much, so I'm gonna see how it goes. These are in need of being used. Can you see? They're pretty abused, so need to use those up. This is a delicata squash. We had an abundance of these in our garden this year. I have some garlic cloves. I'll use those, and I have some regular potatoes. I'll probably grab a couple of those, and pesto. I have some carrots in the refrigerator, and I have, let me show you, some pearl onions. I used these in a cranberry relish dish, and I've got all of these left. I have another full one like this. So instead of biting into my onions, my fresh onions, I'm going to use these ones up first. They'll be great for this because I'm roasting all of these together. They'll be great to roast, and I'll be using them up, and that's what this pantry challenge is all about. So I'm going to get these prepped. First thing, they do need prepping. They're pretty hard to peel. So the easiest thing to do when you use them is to put them in a pot of boiling water and for about a minute, and it'll soften them up so that they'll peel a lot easier, and then voila, you have an onion. I have my carrots from the refrigerator. We store our carrots in Ziploc bags. They store quite well, and they are crispy, okay? We harvested these in early October, so they're still really good. All we do is pull them from the ground and clean them really well. I clip the tops down, and that's it. That's it. I don't peel them or anything. So these ones, I'm just gonna wash a little bit, and then I'm going to chop them up and get them ready to put into our pan for roasting. I'm gonna grab this, and I'm going to put all of these, all the vegetables that I chop are going to go into this bag. Here are my onions. They're in a bowl of cold water just to stop the cooking process. See how they pop right out of the peel? Isn't that cute? These are so tasty. Okay, so what I'm going to do is work with half the bag, then add and go from there. Okay, I am putting in some pesto. I've never done this before, just kind of something I thought would be really good. We'll see. It's a jar I found in the refrigerator. Oh, which reminds me, I have some garlic still to put in. So I gotta get that in there. And I'm gonna add a little bit to this bowl. Mix that around, mix this around. I'm using this because I actually have some in the freezer that is homemade. A lot of it, actually. And I need to use that too. But this was some I found in our condiments in the refrigerator. It's not expired, but I just don't know how long it's been in there. So I want to use it up because I don't know when I'll use it if I don't use it now. Okay, what I'm going to do is just keep moving the bag around. I do want to get everything coated. God, I got it on my hand. Okay, some olive oil. And there is olive oil in the pesto. A little bit of salt. And a little bit of pepper. I forgot I've got tea there that I need to start drinking. A little bit of pepper, What I am going to do is leave this in the refrigerator just like this until we get back from our appointment, because it's going to really capture a lot of flavor. And I don't want to cook it too far ahead because we're going to be gone for a bit. So this will make it a lot easier. I won't have all that prep. You saw how long it took for me to do all that prep. So I did this. You can do this a day ahead, 2 days ahead, an afternoon ahead, and it is going to make your life a little bit easier, so that all you have to do is come back, put this on a parchment lined pan, and bake it. Look at that bread. It's doing well, but not quite ready yet. Has about 11 minutes left. All right, we are ready for the meat part of this dish. All I'm doing is I have a couple things of chicken. So I have a chicken breast and I have some chicken tenders. So for me, they're in the freezer, need to be used. This one especially because I took one out and used it and left the other one in there. It's really big, so unless it's two, it could be two. No, it's just a really big breast. So I'm going to slice it this way, just to be able to get two skinny ones. Okay, this is some Newman's honey mustard. It's a salad dressing, it's a marinade, it's whatever you want it to be. Today it's going to be a marinade. It's really good as a dipping sauce as well. I want it coated so that it'll nicely marinate in there until I need it. That water's not going to hurt it in the least. What I'm going to do is seal that. Do the bag shake thing. Bag squish. Did I get that other one cut out? Yeah, I did. Okay. Just gonna squish these all up. They're going to marinate until later. And then I have a really fantastic coating. That's what I want to say. I have a really fantastic coating for these. So until we get back, they are going to remain on this sheet pan in the refrigerator, and I'll show you when we get back what we're going to do with these. We just got back from our appointment and we were a lot longer than I expected to be. But that's okay because all of this stuff has had time to marinate really good. So I'm going to open this up. I hope I have enough room. And going to put it on a parchment lined pan. Gosh, look at this. I've got the oven preheating at 400 degrees. And I'm going to, I expect that this is going to take a good 40 minutes to cook. So I hope it is quicker, but I think it's going to take a little bit. Because I don't have it all in one single layer. I mean, I do as much as I can, but it's pretty crowded, so. Okay, there. Doesn't that look so good? I can't tell you how wonderful this smells. Look at this. This smells absolutely amazing. I am going to get this in the oven. Even though it's not up to temperature yet, I'm still going to get it in there. Let's put it on the top rack in the center, close that, and let's work on the chicken. Okay, chicken. I need to line this pan also with parchment paper. So this is going to be a little bit different than anything I've ever done, actually. Okay, one of the things that I found in my pantry that's been there for a while, honestly, and I have like 3 bags. Pistachios. Now, these ones are shelled. The other ones are not shelled. So I'm just gonna save myself some time and use the shelled ones. And I wanna pulse them up so that they're like breadcrumbs. And I am going to put my tenders, kind of dredge them in that breadcrumb mix and use it as a coating. So it's essentially going to be pistachio crusted chicken. I am just going to dredge each piece, press them down, I'm just going to set that down. On the way home, I didn't tell Joe what we were having for supper, and he kept saying, "So you had supper already?" And I said, "Yep, got it all figured out." We're definitely, you know how they say too many chiefs in the kitchen? Well, that's us. The two of us in the kitchen both like to be chiefs. So he wasn't chief this time. He was just the one who wasn't well informed. So he'd asked me what I had for supper, and I said chicken and vegetables. He did get out of me what we were having for vegetable, and I still haven't told him what we were doing for chicken. He will hopefully be pleasantly surprised.
This dish was fantastic. We all loved it. It got rave reviews. Even the girls loved it. I highly recommend trying this.
Today is day 2 of our pantry challenge dinners. So tonight we have company coming, and I just wanted to make something quick and easy so that it's all ready, just needs to be warmed up when our company gets here. So making a wild rice soup with chicken as requested by Joe. He wants chicken in this, so we're gonna put chicken in it. So right now I have just a pot. It's a heavy cast porcelain enameled pot. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of olive oil in the bottom of this pan. Probably a couple tablespoons maybe. And I'm doubling this recipe. Some wild rice. I'm going to do about 2/3 cup of wild rice. And 2 quarts of water. I love mason jars. All right, let's turn this on, and we're gonna cook this for about 30 minutes. I'm just gonna bring it to a boil. Cover that. And while this is coming to a boil, I'm going to work on cutting up some carrots because we want some carrots in with this meal. I'm just slicing these carrots. Nothing fancy, nothing big. I'm just going to slice them. You can cut them smaller if you'd like. You can dice them. I kind of like a slice because I want to taste the carrot. Now this is a recipe that is from the Taste of Home cookbook, and I love that cookbook. I've had it for years, but I haven't looked through it in a long time. I found this recipe, and I don't think it's one that I've made yet, so I'm gonna make that. And I'm just kind of guesstimating on carrots. I'm just gonna go until I think we have enough. I love soups, especially in the winter, during the colder months, falls and the winter part of the year, because they're easy, they're cozy, and you can incorporate a lot of vegetables, a lot of goodness, a lot of health benefits. I'm using homemade chicken broth, so that bone broth is really going to add a lot of healing nutrition to this pot of soup. As far as the rest of the ingredients that I'm putting in here, they're mainly stuff that we grew and I froze. The onions I put in the freezer, so those are all chopped and ready to go. And I have celery that I threw in the freezer. It's all chopped and ready to go, so I really just needed the carrots. For the chicken, I am using canned chicken. I didn't want to have to go into the freezer and thaw chicken out, so I have some canned chicken. We canned it in 2022, so I'm going to use that for this recipe, and I think it's going to be delicious. I just moved that over, and I got a bigger pan because I want to do I'm doubling that, and I'm thinking I'm going to have to add some broth, so I'm going to need a bigger container than that, a bigger pot. So I got my bigger pot from upstairs. This is, I don't know how big. It's big, 7 quart. So I've got that on here, and I'm going to add some butter. Add a bit of butter. I'm gonna add about a half a cup of butter. Because I'm going to cook my vegetables in this stock pot. I'm gonna cook, just kind of saute my onions and my celery and my carrots together. And then I'm gonna make a roux. My celery is gonna need draining because I left that in the refrigerator last night. My onions are fresh from the freezer. It's great to have onions all ready to go. They're all chopped. I like that. I'm gonna drain my celery a little bit here. Let's go ahead and put her in. And just gonna add a little bit of onions. I want to saute this until they're nice and tender. Add my carrots in as well. Now, one of the components in this soup is chicken. Well, in my recipe, it's chicken. The recipe actually doesn't call for meat, but Joe likes meat in it, so we're putting chicken. This is just a jar of canned chicken, and the seasoning is Kinder's seasoning. It's Kinder's brand, the red garlic. So when I add this to my soup, I'm adding it liquid and all. I think that a lot of the flavor is in there, and I don't want to miss out on that, and I don't want to waste anything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this jar, if I can get it open. Ugh, they seal so well. All right, I'm gonna pour it into a bowl because I want to chop my chicken down a little bit. It's quite chunky, more than I want in this soup. So I'm going to go through and just kind of break up the chunks. See, this is how big some of the chunks are. So I'm just kind of breaking those up a little bit. I'm gonna set this aside. I'm gonna go wash my hands. Our rice is boiling, so I'm going to put the lid on that. I want to turn it down a little bit. I'm going to put the lid on and give it a little stir. Alright, and I'm going to stir this around a little bit. Let me turn the heat up on this. A little bit of water in here from the onions that were frozen, so if I turn the heat up, hopefully some of that water will evaporate. I'm going to give the vegetables about 5 more minutes, and while that's doing its thing, I'm going to try to grab a little lunch. This is leftovers from last night's dinner. It really got a big thumbs up, so I loved it. I'm going to eat it again. I think this one was a definite winner. And I would try it with other nuts as well. I think I'm going to try it with cashews, pecans, it's very good. I'm going to add some flour to this and make a roux. Rice looks good. Let me get my flour. I've got about 3/4 of a cup of flour. I'm going to add that in. I always want to stir this and keep it going because you don't want your flour to burn. That would not be good. But you also want to cook it for a bit too because you don't want that flour taste. So we're just going to cook the flour taste out of it. And then once that gets done, I'm going to move it aside until we're ready for the next step. Takes about a minute or two to cook that flour flavor out of there. I'm gonna add a little salt and pepper. This is salted butter, so that's gonna be a little salt added there as well. I'm gonna add some pepper. All right, to this mixture, I want to add 2 quarts of chicken stock. Now this is bone broth that I canned myself. Just leave that in there. I'm gonna put a little bit of water in each one of these and just kind of zhuzh it around and make sure I get all the good stuff. Not a lot, you can see I didn't add a lot of water, but just enough to get what's on the bottom. I want to get all of that in there. All right. And I am also going to add the rice. So let's get that uncovered. All right. And there's no easy way of doing this, so I'm just going to put it in. All in there. And stir that around. We want to bring this to a boil and let it thicken. And you'll notice I didn't drain the rice. I'm also going to add that chicken too. Almost forgot about the chicken. I want to add that and all of the broth in from that as well. I think Joe's gonna tell me there's not enough chicken in here. He would like a lot more chicken. I just want flakes, like a hint. He likes meat, I like vegetables. I mean, I like meat, but I do sometimes like to have a soup that is just vegetable. I turn the heat up. I want to get it thickened, and then once it's thickened, I want to add some coconut milk. Now, the recipe actually calls for cream, but I almost never have cream, and I always use this in place of cream. So that's what I'm going to use. You want 2 cups. I'm going to add 2 cans because I'm doubling, so I'm gonna have 4 cups. It's not gonna be quite 4 cups, but close enough. And I'm also going to be adding some fresh rosemary, dried. Fresh dried rosemary. Does that even make sense? Okay, so it's nicely boiled and thickened. You can see here, it looks amazing. It smells amazing. So I have my canned coconut milk that I took out of the can and I put in a dish just for ease of dumping. I'm gonna bring this to a simmer and just let it simmer. Now that will break down and it'll add a really nice creaminess to this soup. I'm gonna add in some rosemary, fresh dried rosemary. It kind of doesn't sound right when I say fresh. All right. Oh my gosh, that smells so good. Combination of the coconut milk and rosemary. Oh my gosh, that smells so good. This is going to be a delicious soup. And I am going to make biscuits to have with this. Let's get a little taste test. Needs a little salt. Add a little bit of pepper. We're gonna let this sit and simmer for about 20 minutes. I'm not gonna cover it. I'm gonna leave it uncovered, and every once in a while I'm gonna come back to it and stir it up. has really terrific flavor, but the flavor is going to be even more pronounced once it sits and simmers for a while. This has been sitting for about 30 minutes and I need to use this stove. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to gingerly take this upstairs and have just set it on the wood cook stove.
This was another delicious dinner, and I'm going to tell you, we ended up adding curry powder to this. Oh, probably about 3 tablespoons, and just let it sit and simmer a little bit longer, and this was the most delicious soup. A winner, definitely a winner, so if you can make this one, I would. On this night, I pan-fried some chicken on both sides so that it was nice and brown. Then I finished it off in the oven, and with it, we had the leftover roasted vegetables that I had cooked earlier in the week.
We're back with another dinner meal. Now tonight we're going to do homemade hamburger helper. It doesn't just have to come from a box. Joe loves hamburger helper. I don't love that it comes in a box, so I'm choosing to make it homemade, and you can do that. I had all the staples that I needed in my pantry, so we are going to make that tonight. First thing I'm going to do is I put a little bit of oil in the bottom of the pan, and some ground beef. We're just going to brown this up. I'm gonna get it nice and brown. This is just a pound of ground beef. You can double this recipe if you need to for a bigger family. We are a family of 4, so we do not need any more than this. This is something that I'm making from a meal in a jar. Some of the components are here in the jar. I leave it on my shelf in the pantry, and it's shelf stable for 6 months. So you can put several of them on and just have it be a grab meal, because all of the amount of noodles that you need are in here, and all of the seasonings are also in here. So you don't need any more than what's in here and your wet ingredients, your meat. So first thing we're going to do is just get this ground beef browned up. I'll turn my heat up a little bit. Get it all browned up, and as soon as we do that, we're gonna add the other ingredients. Ground beef is browned nicely. So to this, I am going to add the contents of our jar, which is all of our seasonings and our noodles. This is 1.5 cups of noodles of whatever choice you want for noodles. 2 teaspoons of paprika, teaspoon of onion powder, garlic powder, salt, and sugar, and cornstarch. And I'm going to add 1 cup of beef broth to this. And 2 cups of milk. This is just 2% milk. You can use whatever milk you have on hand. That in here. This has started to bubble and boil, so I am going to turn it down to a simmer, and I'm just going to let it simmer for 10 to 12 minutes. It will thicken up as it cooks, and as I said, one of the ingredients in the jar is a teaspoon of cornstarch, so that is a thickener, so it'll help this to thicken. I can already feel it thickening, and it'll thicken even more once I put the cheese in. I've shut the heat off, and now what I'm going to do is add in a little bit of shredded cheddar. Joe likes a lot of cheese. I do not so much, so I'm gonna kind of go half and half. Let that melt in there. I did season it a little bit more as we went on. I tasted it and added a little bit of what I thought it needed. So you can season along the way to your taste. And that's it. This is just another easy meal to make from what you have on hand. And as I said, you can use whatever pasta you want. I'm using shells. These shells are actually chickpea pasta. They have less carbs than regular pasta, and my husband Joe is a diabetic. I don't know if I've ever addressed that on here, but we always try to do whatever we can to reduce the amount of carbs. So that's a little less carb for him than regular pasta, so that's what we did. You can use chicken or beef broth. That's what I used. You can use water if you don't have beef broth on hand. You can use whole milk, canned milk. I use 2% milk, and whatever works for whatever you have on hand. So I'm gonna get this plated. Everybody's gonna eat this along with some homemade bread toasted up with some butter, and another great meal done.